Welcome to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from our studios here in London. Over the next half hour, we'll be looking beyond the business headlines by giving you in-depth perspective on the stories that are affecting all of us. Coming up on today's show, Africa's creative economy has gone global, from literary production to arts and entertainment. How can creatives make our culture the most dynamic sector on the continent? And Malta's moment of truth. The 2017 murder of journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia in a car bomb has shocked Europe. I'll be speaking with two analysts about the safety of those who are going above and beyond to report the truth. Before those discussions, here's our business correspondent Simon Pusey, who joins me for a breakdown of this week's headline-grabbing stories.
Yeah, thank you, Juliana. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has said he would press ahead with a digital sales tax even after the US threatened to punish France for a similar move. In a proposal first outlined last year, large online companies face a tax of 2% of UK sales from April 2020. Mr. Johnson said digital companies needed to make a fairer contribution. Donald Trump has threatened to impose taxes on French goods in retaliation for a digital services tax that would affect Google, Amazon and Facebook. Ahead of Wednesday's NATO meeting in Watford, the US president said, "We've taxed wine and we have other taxes scheduled. We'd rather not do that, but that's the way it would work. So it's either going to work out or we'll work out some mutually beneficial tax." The US said it would apply tariffs of up to 100% on $2.4 billion worth of cheese, champagne, handbags and other French products. Now, the video sharing app TikTok has been hit with a class action lawsuit in the US that claims it transferred vast quantities of user data to China. The lawsuit accuses the company of surreptitiously taking content without user consent. TikTok, which is thought to have around 500 million active users worldwide, has previously said it does not store US data on Chinese servers. However, the platform is facing mounting pressure in North America over data collection and censorship concerns. The lawsuit, filed in California, claims TikTok vacuumed up and transferred to servers in China vast quantities of private and personally identifiable user data. It alleges the data could be used to identify, profile and track users in the US now and in the future. And finally, Elon Musk has told a Los Angeles jury that a Twitter message he sent last year suggesting a man in Thailand was a paedophile wasn't in fact meant to connotate a dictionary definition of the word and was written in response to what he viewed as an unprovoked attack. Vernon Unsworth, a British national, was instrumental in coordinating the Tam Luang cave rescue in 2018. In an interview with CNN that quickly went viral, he insulted the Tesla chief executive and made fun of his attempts to assist by building a miniature submarine. Musk, who admitted that he had no idea who Unsworth was at the time, responded by calling the cave explorer a pedo guy on Twitter. To Unsworth's attorneys, Musk's insult was a libelous allegation at a time that should have been one of the proudest moments of his life. Elon Musk's attorneys, meanwhile, claim that the pair were simply trading insults. The case continues.
Thank you, Simon. Here is some other business news from across the globe. Russia and China have cemented their relationship in the energy sphere following Monday's launch of the first gas pipeline linking the world's biggest natural gas exporter with the world's second largest economy. The $55 billion, 1,800-mile-long channel will transport natural gas from Siberia to northeastern China. Putin has said trade with China would reach a record $1,000 billion this year, up from $87 billion in 2018. According to Xi, the new pipeline will bring bilateral trade to $200 billion by 2024. More than 30,000 Japanese women have signed an online petition demanding that the Labour Ministry overturn the country's strict office dress code. Females are expected to wear high heels, stockings and makeup, with some employers even stipulating what colour hair they can have. Activists say reports of women being forced to wear contact lenses instead of glasses at work appear to violate gender equality rules.
そういう方たちはみんなやはり女性なんですね。なのでこれはちゃんと女性の差別の問題だということで認識していただいて、同じ労働者であるならば同じ労働条件で働ける権利があるはずだということをもっと皆さんに認識してもらいたいなと思っています。私は外に出ることができなくなり、布団をかぶって毎日死ぬことばかり考えていたのです。ジェンダーを問わずヒール付きパンプスを履きたい人、履きたくない人、使い分けたい人、すいません、様々です。
US President Donald Trump announced on Monday that America will restore the tariffs on steel and aluminium imported from Brazil and Argentina effective immediately, citing the devaluation of both countries' currencies, making it difficult for US food exports to compete. The Brazilian Steel Institute described the US decision as confusing, adding that it will eventually harm the interests of US companies. Now, over to our first topic. Last week's decision by a major British institution to return a Benin bronze to Nigeria catapulted African culture to the top of the news agenda. The okuko, a bronze cockerel taken by British colonial forces and donated to Jesus College, Cambridge, may have dominated the discussion. However, the value of African culture doesn't just exist in the past. Recently, there have been several global showcases of our rich heritage, including Afro Nation in Portugal over the summer, the numerous fashion weeks in Lagos attended by the who's who in fashion, and of course last year's Global Citizen concert held in Johannesburg, which was of course attended by Beyonce and Jay-Z. And there are many more in the works. Joining me in the studio is Buchi Henry Mbagwu, the founder of African Artistry Expo. Welcome, Buchi.
Thank you so much.
Nice to see that you dressed the part today. I'm really liking your outfit. A bit of blend.
Yes.
From so many cultures.
So many cultures. And it's important to represent different cultures as you become a global citizen. And it's important to showcase the African culture, talk about Africa and just culture in general. It's something very, it makes me happy as a person.
It makes me happy that you're happy. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. What were your thoughts when you heard about the Benin bronze and the Cambridge University scandal? Because it really did dominate headlines.
For me, it was so many things went through my mind. And my point is the significance of returning it. It's on two folds. For the people that live in the diaspora, or people that the African American, the Black British, for them it's something of honor. For them, it's time for things like that.
It's like the principle, isn't it?
Principle in terms of a payback and say, take back the okoko back to Benin. But for me, I think that Cambridge can do a lot more in terms of empowering young people from that region, from Benin or from all parts of Africa. There's a lot that's been taken away. And it's important for them to set up kind of a scheme where either students from, Benin University or universities from Africa can come and learn at Cambridge, or sort of set up an institution where, whatever fund that they have can be utilized to empower these young people.
And to tell them, of course, about their culture, because for so long,
yes,
the African culture has almost been buried, hasn't it? We're not, especially for those of us in the diaspora, we're just not learning enough about our culture. But we happen to be now. And, the African economy of culture, as it's being sold, is really trying to be calculated now. There are lots of people, that are involved in pushing out the agenda, pushing out the narrative that, the West are consuming. And of course, Buchi, it's not just Nollywood or the other film industries.
Yes.
It's not just music and it's not just fashion. What are the other elements of that economy that need to be exploited?
It's massive in terms of you can go from our heritage to creative services, and I know that a lot of people know about the fashion and about the music. Afrobeat is doing so well, but there are other genres of music in Africa that I know people do not even know about. I know our folk songs, our Fuji music, and the rest. So for us, it's all about bringing the creative, the artistry in these young individuals. In terms of the population in Africa that are young people that have the potential to do so much more. But because of what the media have done over the years, where they make us think that, for example, our blackness is not good enough. Our skin is not good enough. What we do is not good enough.
It's changing, isn't it?
It's changing.
Especially that Wakanda. It did, especially for African Americans.
Yes, it's important. And it's come to a point where people appreciate their own culture, the way we speak, the way we dress, the way, we live our life.
Those are some really good examples that you're giving us. But what about the money? It's the economics, isn't it? And do you think that perhaps has been overlooked by us? I don't want to name the famous designer. Most people will know who she is. Yeah. And she wasn't the only one. There are several huge designers that have taken Ankara, onto the runway, put $2,000-3,000 price tag on it. And some people are like, hang on a minute, that's what my mum was using to cook jollof rice for all those years. Do you think we really need to start packaging the value of our products better?
100%, I do agree with you, but I think the government needs to do more in terms of providing the right infrastructure, the right mechanism. You do
see them at some events, though, don't you?
No, I do, and it's important because you have to think as an entrepreneur, how do you fund your business? How do you get those incentives, all this backing to be able to allow small businesses in Africa survive, or even all over the world? It doesn't have to be in Africa. It could be here in the UK, it could be in the US, but there should be incentive for designers, artists that are doing things that talk about the cultures, the African culture, or just culture in general, to tell our own story by our own people. So it's important. So I think in terms of the economics, it's coming up. People are more aware, and
people are making money.
People are making money.
Gucci, are you making money? Yes, I can tell.
That's a huge export that we have at the moment, because when you think about it, we do compete with the West when it comes to science and technology, but when it comes to arts, culture, and creative, that's where, as a continent in Africa, we can dominate.
Yeah.
Do you understand? I mean, we have rich heritage all the way from Kenya to Ethiopia to Botswana to Zimbabwe to Nigeria to Ghana. So it's over 55 countries which reach 1.5 about over 1 billion people that are so young and talented, and hungry. And this is what they can do for themselves. Absolutely. They don't even have to wait for the government to do anything for them. This is about young people going out there to seize the opportunity.
We're running out of time, and of course I cannot let you go without paying reference to your outfit here, the African Artistry Expo. That's coming up in the UAE next year.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
So next year is the World Expo in Dubai. It's the Expo 2020 in Dubai, and it's the biggest expo in the world. It's the first expo coming to the Middle East, Africa, and South Asia. So Africa as a continent, what we've done is let's put Africa on the map. Let's take Africa global, where we can talk about the artistry of young people in Africa. So the African Artistry Expo is we're creating a platform to connect buyers and sellers, bringing African fashion, arts, affordable fashion and creative, on a global stage where they're going to, compete with 192 countries, and it's a massive platform.
It's the first time Africa's been involved in this, right?
Yes. So the African Artistry Expo, it's going to change a lot of lives. For us, it's all about empowering young artists. It's going to be an exhibition. There will be a conference with over 200 speakers.
Food? You didn't mention food.
Food, fashion, and outstanding awards to young artists, from drawing to paintings to sculpture, to music to fashion. So it's just all about saying that this is us. This is what we stand for. This is our culture, our rich heritage. It's time to earn from that point where people can now sell their own stuff on a global stage and make money.
Well, Bucci, I couldn't agree with you more, and I want my VIP ticket and first class flight coming up. I'll be discussing how Malta's nightmare before Christmas has shone a light on the dangers of reporting on corrupt senior officials. See you after the break. Welcome back to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from our studios here in London. In happier times, Malta was known for year-round sunshine and white, sandy beaches. But the southern European island country is now living through what's been described as a nightmare before Christmas, as the scandal over the murder of investigative journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia deepens. In October 2017, the respected journalist was assassinated in a car bomb explosion. Before her death, she had been reporting on allegations relating to the Panama Papers, a mass of documents leaked in 2016 from a Panamanian law firm. The documents revealed that two of Prime Minister Joseph Muscat's close associates were involved in secret offshore businesses. The investigation is still ongoing. Joining me in the studio for more on this is preventative terrorism expert and president of the Africa Security Forum, Temitope Olodo, and international expert in counter-terrorism and conflict resolution, John Essin. John is also the founder of a UK-based think tank, the Global Peace Initiative. Welcome to you, guys. Temitope, let me start with you. Some have said that there is compelling evidence to presume that Malta's most famous reporter was the target of an assassination plot. Yet, the world is staying silent?
It's sad that we're in this situation. Malta is a very lovely country, 15 years into being part of Europe. The state of Malta, as of 1964, they've never seen anything like this. But I think we should not kid ourselves in terms of looking into the issue of investigative journalism. Journalists who have sadly lost their lives. Even here in the UK, between 1975 to now, we've had at least 4 killed. It's a serious issue, especially when you're looking into corruption anywhere in the world, and journalists have lost their life as a result. My concern is that there's been a bit of a silence in Europe on this matter, and a lot of people are asking why the silence, because you could link it to France. There's connection to France issue. There are a lot of big politicians.
If you're talking about Europe, you're talking about everywhere, including the UK.
Yes, and I think that is the reason why there is need for us to beam our light into this issue, to understand exactly what has gone wrong, and learn lessons from it, at least for journalists and for we who are the punters that look into issues of security or personal safety, to see how we could best advise individuals who are in this very risky business. As of now, at least 80 journalists lost their life last year. Not talk of over 300 that were arrested as a result of doing investigation.
It's a huge issue, and it's very risky. I know, because I've been an investigative journalist. John, let me bring you into this, because one of the reasons why we're discussing this issue on Channel's Business Global is because Daphne was known for dipping her fingers into the Panama Papers. I remember when it leaked, a lot of big names, including big names in Nigeria, past governments, were, they were involved. And it's economics, isn't it? Do you think there are enough safety measures in place to look after these individuals who are deciding to go places that even their family members would say, thus go no further?
Enough measures? No, I don't necessarily think so, because if you look at what has happened, the governing structures, both security and political, there's a collision of politicians in Malta at the very highest levels who are involved in this. And they seem to have a common interest, because you have the Minister for Economics, the Minister of Economy, sorry. You have the
Chief of Staff.
Chief of Staff, Furnich, Yubak Furnich. And you also have the Minister for Tourism. They're all involved, and these are right-hand men to President Joseph Muscat. And incidentally, he's been trying to provide a cushion for his inner circle. Well,
he said he will resign. Some are saying it's too little, too late.
Yeah, even with the resignation, he hasn't actually stated he'll resign. What he said is that there'll be an election by the 12th of January. But the family is suspecting that whoever emerges from the Labour Party, which is leading, if the potential president doesn't have any allegiance to him, he'll cling on to power, because he's too close to what has happened. And over 2 years, he hasn't done enough.
Well, of course, the investigation is still ongoing. Of course, we've got to be careful, even though most of the stuff that we've mentioned is already out there. Tell me, are we surprised that this has happened in Malta? Would we be as surprised as something like this took place in Nigeria? I know it has happened, but how has this been able to happen in Malta?
I think we need to look at the trend across the globe, where state actors are involved, where individuals who are in high office are involved. Investigations like this are still, and not only still, but they're swept under the carpet.
Well, so Prince Andrew, those investigations weren't, were they?
Exactly.
They weren't swept under the carpet.
Yeah, but...
And that's the highest... Can you get more senior than the royal family?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, and this is the difference between a democratic country and a country that is moving into democratic practices.
Okay.
So when you talk about Delegation, for example, in Nigeria, his assassins are yet to be identified up to date. And we know of journalists who have made assertions about things which are factuals, and they be locked up and the key thrown away until journalists like yourself raise the issue and bring it into the limelight. So the question is, how do we ensure that investigative journalists get the protection that they want to get?
It's almost as if sometimes it appears as if the establishment, the established, whatever the established is, are against those who seek out on their own to find the truth.
Yeah, the thing is, even intergovernmental institutions like the EU, which Malta is a part of, and the Council of Europe, you'd have expected to have stood up and defended the
Well, they said they are going to send a delegation, didn't they? They said, I think Germany are leading that delegation that will be going to Malta to try and get to the bottom of this.
Well, she's been dead for 2 years, and it's civil organizations that has exerted sufficient pressure for them to try to act now.
But I think
it's been 2 years, so
but I think it's important to highlight that when you're looking about Europe, when you're talking about Europe, and there are nations and there are the union itself. So these states and union relationship are governed by rules. So Europe can't just step into Malta, which is a sovereign state, and start dictating. So they must allow the legal instrument within Malta to operate independently.
Well, but what we've seen, Temitope, is those illegal instruments are involved. They've literally got blood on their hands. But I'm just wondering what happens next. How do you think this case is going to resolve itself? Because it is gaining, headline attention. We're talking about it, and this is going out in Nigeria.
For me personally, I think there is more that needs to be done by organizations that protect or that work with journalists. So organizations like IFJ and the others, to more or less work and get individual government commitment. There's nothing wrong in if there is an investigation that is done, because we're all working towards having our building strong institutions, and we could see that even playing out in Nigeria as we speak. When you have broken leadership and broken institutions, then you can't have an effective democratic system. And it's important to highlight that if we all keep quiet, it will happen to us at the end of the day. We might be the next victim. Absolutely,
which is why this needs to be discussed. We're running out of time, but I want to ask John, are there some corruption stories that are just untouchable?
They shouldn't be untouchable. No matter who you are, you should be prosecuted, you should be apprehended, prosecuted to the very limits of the law. And just before we close, I want to say that Nigeria can learn from this, because on the World Free Press Index, Malta has fallen 30 places because of this case, from 44 to 70. Nigeria is 120, so if Nigeria is below Malta, this is an opportunity to learn from this.
What we do know is that 3 men have been charged with playing out the bomb. Bombing the car, but now it's who ordered the hit, isn't it? And at the moment, we know that nobody's touching the Prime Minister. I've got to go, and I know there's so much more to talk about. I'm so sorry, guys, it's so quick. Next time we'll have you in for much longer, I promise. Sadly, that's all we have time for today, but do get in touch with your comments and suggestions. I'll see you at the same time next week for more in-depth business analysis on Channel's Business Global. Goodbye.